Good morning, everyone. Growing up in a world that's constantly loud, I learned something that changed my life. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strength. And today, I want to tell you something that no one probably told you in school. At work, or even at home, be silent. And you will get everything you want in life. Now wait, I'm not talking about being silent in fear, or in shame, or because you don't have a voice. No, I'm talking about that powerful, unshakable silence that comes from self-belief. That silence that doesn't need to announce every move. That silence that listens, learns, and then strikes like thunder. In a world where everyone is trying to be the loudest in the room, silence has become underrated. But the truth is, silence isn't a lack of voice. It's a sign of deep inner strength. It takes courage to stay calm when the world expects you to react. When you choose not to respond to every insult, every doubt, or every challenge thrown your way, you're not being passive, you're being powerful. Because silence gives you space to think, to feel, and to act with precision. Those who truly understand their worth don't beg to be seen. They let their energy speak, their presence command, and their silence echo louder than noise. There's a reason why the calmest people are often the ones everyone pays attention to. You don't have to announce your every move, and you don't have to prove your worth in every room you walk into. The most successful people in the world have learned the art of being quiet while they work, while others are distracted by applause or attention. Silent strength is busy building something unstoppable. When you realize that your value doesn't depend on external validation, your silence becomes a shield that protects your vision, your focus, and your peace. People confuse volume with impact. But impact comes from depth, not loudness. Think about it. When someone walks in with calm confidence, when they speak only when necessary, don't they instantly command more respect? That's the power of silence. It makes people listen harder, observe closer, and wonder more. It turns you from just another voice in the crowd to someone worth watching. And that's exactly what you need to win. Not noise, but presence. Not shouting, but showing. Let your silence do the talking. And let your success be the proof. There will be moments in life where people will try to provoke you, to drag you into their chaos, to make you defend yourself. And in those moments, you'll be tempted to respond. But remember this, not every battle needs your energy. Not every insult deserves your reply. Sometimes the strongest move you can make is to stay silent, smile, and keep moving forward. Because when you refuse to lower your frequency to match their noise, you rise. You rise above the mess, above the noise, and above the need for constant approval. Silence also teaches discipline. It teaches you how to listen, how to observe, and how to move wisely. While others are speaking before thinking, you are absorbing, analyzing, and planning your next step. This is where true leadership is born. It's not in how much you say, but in how intentional your words and actions are. The silent ones are often the most dangerous, not because they hide, but because they prepare. And when they move with impact. Be that person. Be the one who speaks only when it adds value, who moves only when it matters, and who lets their journey unfold without the need for applause. In the end, silence is not the absence of power. It's the presence of control, the ability to pause, to reflect, and to decide with clarity. It is the sign of someone who has mastered themselves. And self-mastery is the greatest power of all. So the next time you feel the need to speak, just to be heard, ask yourself, do I need to speak, or do I need to grow in silence? Because the world may celebrate the loud, but it remembers the impactful. And those who rise silently rise highest. In a world where everyone is announcing their next move, bragging about what they're going to do, or constantly seeking attention for plans not yet executed, There's something incredibly powerful about staying silent and letting your results speak for themselves. You don't have to convince people of your worth when your actions already prove it. The truth is, anyone can talk about dreams, goals, and intentions. But it's only the doers who turn ideas into impact. The loudest person in the room might grab attention for a moment, but it's the silent achiever who earns long-lasting respect. When you stay focused on doing instead of declaring, your work becomes undeniable, and your results become your strongest argument. Quiet consistency is a rare and powerful form of discipline. It doesn't demand recognition. It doesn't crave applause. It shows up every single day, working when no one's watching, building something solid while others are still stuck in the stage of storytelling. You don't have to shout your efforts from the rooftops when you're putting in the real work behind the scenes. In fact, the more you stay quiet, the more you protect your energy, your vision, and your focus. It's not about hiding. It's about refining, preparing, and allowing your efforts to evolve without outside pressure. That's how real success is built, not with noise, but with relentless action that nobody sees coming. Think about how powerful it is to walk into a room where people already know your name. Not because you said it loudest, but because your achievements traveled ahead of you. That kind of recognition comes from doing the work in silence, from staying patient and hungry while others are busy talking. Every moment you spend explaining your goals to people who don't believe in you is a moment taken away from actually reaching them. The truth is, results don't need defense. Real success speaks in a language everyone understands: progress, achievement, and transformation. So stay quiet, stay grounded, and let the results show up louder than your words ever could. There's a quiet confidence that lives in people who trust their journey. They don't need to announce every step because they know where they're going. They understand that the process is personal, and the world doesn't need to be notified of every milestone. When you keep moving without constantly reporting, you stay in control of your narrative. People might doubt you, they might underestimate you, and they might even forget about you. But when your breakthrough arrives, it silences all of it. And that silence, that shift, that sudden rise, it's louder than any speech you could have given. It's your reward for trusting the process, not the spotlight. Actions hold power because they're rooted in reality. Words can be edited, manipulated, or misunderstood, but results are concrete. When you deliver, when you accomplish, when you succeed, there's no room left for doubt. People can argue with your opinions, but they cannot deny your progress. So the most impactful thing you can do is build in silence, rise with grace, and execute with precision. Let others waste their energy in convincing. You invest yours in becoming. And when the time is right, the world will see exactly what you've been up to. And they won't just see it, they'll feel it. The most beautiful victories are often the ones no one saw coming. They're born in silence, nurtured by discipline, and revealed only when the work is done. You don't have to constantly update the world on your grind. You don't have to prove anything to anyone except yourself. When you learn to stay rooted in action and not in the approval of others, you unlock a version of yourself that's unstoppable. Because it's not what you say you're going to do, it's what you actually do that matters. And when you let your success be your voice, your story becomes unforgettable. In a world that never stops talking, never stops moving, and never stops judging, the most powerful thing you can do is protect your energy. Not everything deserves a reaction, and not everyone deserves access to your mind, your emotions, or your time. People will come with their chaos, their noise, their doubts, and their toxic opinions, trying to shake your focus, your confidence, and your purpose. And if you're not careful, You'll find yourself constantly explaining, defending, or even doubting yourself. But silence, pure intentional silence, is your greatest defense. It's not retreat, it's strategy. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. Because the moment you learn to stop reacting to everything that doesn't deserve you, you begin to build something much stronger peace. There's a power in not answering every call, not responding to every message, not reacting to every comment. The more you engage with nonsense, the more you invite it into your space. Silence creates a wall between you and what's not aligned with your vision. And let's be honest, energy is expensive. Every day you only get so much of it. Do you really want to waste it explaining yourself to people who already made up their minds? Or defending your dreams to people who don't even believe in themselves? No. You owe it to your future to keep your focus clean, your energy pure, and your mission clear. Because when your energy is protected, your decisions become sharper, your actions more purposeful, and your path more powerful. People will provoke you. They'll question your silence, mock your patience, even challenge your calm. They'll try to pull you into drama that doesn't belong to you. But the test isn't in how you react. The real test is in how long you can protect your energy without letting the noise shake your spirit. And that takes strength. The kind of strength that's rooted in maturity and self-respect. Silence doesn't mean you're avoiding life. It means you're mastering it. Because when you refuse to give energy to meaningless distractions, you start giving power to what truly matters. Your growth, your goals, and your peace of mind. You see, not every battle is yours to fight. Not every conversation needs your voice. The truth is, some people just want to drain you. They feed off attention, arguments, and chaos. But you're not here to play small. You're not here to waste time proving your worth. You're here to evolve, to build, to become. So you stay silent, not because you have nothing to say, but because you've said enough through your resilience. You stay focused, not because you don't feel emotions, but because you've learned how to master them. That's what protecting your energy really looks like. Choosing your battles wisely, valuing your peace deeply, and walking away from anything that doesn't grow you. The silence you choose becomes your sanctuary. It becomes a sacred space where your ideas breathe, your dreams develop, and your power multiplies. The world will try to distract you with noise, to blur your focus with fear, to make you doubt your own path. But in the silence, you'll find clarity. In the silence, you'll find truth. The quiet moments where you're not explaining, not arguing, not justifying. Those are the moments where transformation begins. It's in that stillness that you start hearing your inner voice louder than the opinions of others. And that voice, that's your power. That's your guide. That's your real compass. So keep your circle clean, your intentions strong, and your silence sacred. Don't allow temporary people to create permanent damage in your life. Don't allow someone else's chaos to poison your clarity. When you protect your energy, you protect your future. And in that protection, you don't just survive, you thrive. While the world is screaming for attention, you're building in peace. While others are busy defending their image, you're designing your legacy. Because deep down, the real wins don't come from shouting. They come from the quiet, relentless grind that no one sees, but everyone feels once you rise. There's a certain magic in restraint. When you choose not to reveal everything, not to speak just for the sake of being heard. In a world obsessed with oversharing, the person who carries silence becomes captivating. They hold a mystery that demands attention. When you speak less, people don't assume you have nothing to say. They wonder what you're thinking. They begin to lean in, not out of politeness, but out of curiosity. That curiosity grows into interest, and interest grows into influence. Because silence isn't absence. It's presence in its purest form. It's the art of being powerful without having to constantly prove it. The moment you stop explaining yourself to everyone, you start becoming the person others try to figure out. People are drawn to what they don't understand. It's basic human nature. When you walk into a room and don't feel the need to introduce, over-explain, or overcompensate, your energy shifts. You become someone with purpose. Someone who doesn't need to chase attention, because attention naturally finds you. Mystery is not about hiding who you are. It's about holding something back so the world has something to discover. You don't have to be loud to be remembered. In fact, it's often the quiet ones who leave the biggest imprint. Not because they said more, but because they made people feel more without saying a word. Silence, when used intentionally, becomes a tool of power. It gives people just enough to stay interested, but never too much to lose the intrigue. That balance between revealing and withholding is where real charisma lies. You're not being fake. You're being strategic. You know your value, and you're not desperate to prove it. That kind of presence speaks louder than words. It demands respect without ever asking for it. Because when you understand the power of silence, you don't chase influence. It naturally grows around you. You don't force connections. They deepen on their own. This isn't about playing games. It's about understanding how energy works. The more you give people, the more they take for granted. But when you hold back just enough, you create space for imagination. And imagination is powerful. People will think about you, talk about you, wonder about you. They'll replay your words, reanalyze your actions, and guess your next move. That's influence. That's what happens when you create presence through mystery. It's not manipulation. It's magnetism. You're not hiding. You're mastering how and when to show up with purpose. The strongest people often say the least because they've learned that silence carries more weight than noise. They know that the real power lies in how they carry themselves, not how loudly they speak. And because they speak only when it's necessary, their words hit harder, sink deeper, and echo longer. When you speak too much, people stop listening. But when you speak with intention and presence, people hang on to every word. You don't need to convince anyone when your energy already does the talking. And that's the kind of presence that doesn't fade. It grows with time. So the next time you feel the urge to explain, to fill the silence, to make yourself heard, pause. Let the silence sit. Let the curiosity build. Let your presence speak before your voice ever does. Because when people have to lean in to understand you, they begin to value you more. When they can't predict your every move, they respect your control. And when they don't know everything about you, they're drawn to learn more. That's how you create mystery. That's how you build influence. Not by being loud, but by being unforgettable in your silence. In a world filled with noise, staying focused is a rare and powerful skill. Every day, people waste their energy arguing over opinions, comparing their lives to others, and talking about what they might do instead of taking action. But when you decide to walk a different path, when you choose silence over distraction, you begin to unlock something extraordinary. You start building quietly while the rest of the world stays busy performing. Your silence becomes your secret weapon. It keeps you aligned with your goals, not pulled in 1,000 directions by outside voices. The less you engage with distractions, the more you hear your own direction clearly. Staying focused in this age is an act of rebellion. It's easy to get caught up in other people's drama, in social media debates, or in the endless noise of who's doing what and who's doing it better. But you're not here to compete with anyone. You're here to fulfill your own potential. You weren't created to argue your worth or explain your path. Every moment you spend trying to prove something to the outside world is a moment stolen from your purpose. Silence isn't weakness. It's a conscious choice to rise above the noise and protect what truly matters. Your vision, your dreams, your mission. Focus is more than just avoiding distractions. It's about building a fortress around your time, your mindset, and your peace. It means saying no to things that don't align with your journey. It means resisting the urge to respond to every challenge, every opinion, every spark of drama that wants your attention. Not everything requires your voice. Not everything deserves your reaction. Sometimes the most powerful response is none at all. Because when you stay silent, you stay in control. You don't let the outside world dictate how you feel, how you act, or what you believe about yourself. Comparison is one of the most dangerous distractions. Watching others, measuring your worth by someone else's timeline, can slowly destroy your confidence. But when you stay grounded, when you stay focused, you realize that success doesn't require an audience. It requires discipline. Everyone's path is different. Some rise quickly, others rise silently and steadily. But none of that matters when you're locked in on your own goals. When you choose to silence the comparisons and amplify your focus, you start to see real progress, real growth, the kind that doesn't need validation to be powerful. There's a reason the most successful people aren't the loudest. They're too busy working, too locked in, too focused to entertain the distractions. They understand that while others are busy arguing and debating, they are building, learning, evolving. Silence is their shield, and focus is their compass. They've mastered the art of being visible while becoming unstoppable. And when they finally show up, they don't have to explain how they got there. The results speak for themselves. That's the power of staying focused in silence. It gives you the edge. It gives you control. The world will always try to pull you in, into gossip, into chaos, into conversations that drain your purpose. But the greatest gift you can give yourself is the ability to stay centered, to protect your peace, to focus on what you're building instead of what you're missing. Because every time you choose silence over distraction, you get closer to the life you want. You get stronger, wiser, and more aligned. And while the world keeps talking, you'll keep growing, quietly, powerfully, and relentlessly. There is something incredibly powerful about rising in silence. When you stop announcing every step, every goal, every dream, you take back your power. You no longer need permission to move forward. You no longer need validation to feel worthy. Instead, you let your journey unfold quietly, with every small victory stacking up until it becomes undeniable. While others are busy talking about what they're going to do, you're out there doing it. You're building in the dark, growing in private, and becoming something so strong that when you finally arrive, your presence speaks volumes. You don't need a grand entrance, because the work you've done will do all the talking. The problem with talking too much about your goals is that it gives people access to your energy, your vision, and your momentum. And not everyone deserves to know what's next. Some will doubt you, some will secretly compete with you, and others will project their fears onto your ambition. That's why silence is your superpower. When you keep your moves to yourself, you protect your dream from unnecessary noise. You move without interference. You build without resistance. You evolve without distraction. And then, one day, without warning, you emerge, not as someone who said they would rise, but as someone who already has. There is a level of focus and determination that only exists in silence. When you're not trying to impress anyone, when you're not trying to prove anything, you're free to do the real work. You get clear on your purpose. You train, you plan, you refine. You fall, learn, and rise again. All without the eyes of the world watching. That privacy gives you power. That quiet gives you clarity. And that discipline becomes the foundation of something so strong, no one can question how you got there. Because when people finally see your results, it's not a surprise, it's a statement. A bold, undeniable statement that says, I've arrived and I did it my way. Too many people confuse noise with progress. They think being loud means being successful. But true success rarely makes a sound on the way up. It's only when it arrives that the world pays attention. Because real power doesn't need to announce itself. It just is. And when you rise in silence, your dominance becomes louder than any words could ever be. Your transformation speaks. Your actions echo. Your success demands respect. And no one can ignore the presence of someone who did the work without needing to be seen every step of the way. That's the difference between attention and legacy. Let the world talk while you grind. Let them guess, doubt, and assume. Your silence will confuse them. Your progress will shock them. You don't need to argue your greatness. You just need to become it. Because when the results show up, the same people who questioned you will have no choice but to respect you. That's the power of rising silently. You skip the performance and go straight to the proof. You don't need to say, watch me. You just need to let them feel it when you walk in the room. Let your excellence be your entrance. Let your work speak so loudly that it silences every voice that ever doubted you. At the end of the day, your journey is yours. And it deserves to be protected, nurtured, and executed with intention. You don't need the world's applause to begin. You just need to begin. Move in silence, hustle in peace, build with purpose. And when the time comes, dominate with presence so undeniable that your success becomes a roar in a world that never saw you coming. That's how you make an impact. Not by talking, but by transforming. Not by telling them what you'll do, but by showing them what you've already done. That's how legends are made. Not loudly, but relentlessly. In the end, let your silence be your strength and your results be your roar. You don't need to broadcast every move to make an impact. You just need to stay committed, stay focused, and stay grounded in your purpose. Let others chase applause while you chase progress. Let them talk while you build. Because when the time is right, your rise will speak so loudly, it won't need an introduction. The world doesn't remember those who promised. They remember those who delivered. So rise silently, but when you arrive, dominate so powerfully that your success echoes louder than any words ever could.